Hello, and welcome to today's No Jitter webinar. Ask your data anything. Get instant insights with natural language to reduce costs and elevate CX. Sponsored by Unifor and broadcast by Informa Tech Target. I'm Lisa Schmeiser, editor and program co-chair for Enterprise Connect with No Jitter, and I'll be your moderator for our discussion today. Contact centers generate one of the most valuable and underutilized assets in the enterprise, unstructured conversation data. That holds the answers to how your customers think, feel, and act. But turning that data into insight has traditionally been slow, manual, and resource intensive. That's changing fast. Join us to explore how large language models, also known as LLMs, are changing the way contact centers interact with their data. See how leading organizations are moving beyond dashboards and replacing time-consuming review processes with AI agents that uncover trends, identify root causes, and automate quality management with no need for predefined keywords, complex sampling, or technical expertise. On that note, I'm excited to introduce our speakers today. I am joined by Beth Schultz, Vice President of Research and Principal Analyst at Metrigy, Eric Johnson, Vice President of Product Management at Unifor, and Shikha Mohaya, Marketing Manager, Unifor. Thank you all for coming on. Before I hand it over to you, Beth, I just want to remind our audience of a few things. This webinar is interactive. At the bottom of your screen, there are buttons you can click to learn more about today's speakers, download a copy of the slides, share this webinar via social media outlets, and participate in the Q&A session that will take place at the end of our presentation. You can also use the Q&A area to let us know if you're experiencing any technical issues, and our team will do its best to assist you. This presentation will have 3 sections. The first will discuss Metrigy's research. The second will expand on Unifor's point of view on conversational insights. And finally, we'll have a discussion between Beth, Eric, and Shikha. Then we'll have time for audience questions. Okay, let's get to it. Beth, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Lisa. I'm excited to be here to talk about Metrigy's research in interaction, conversation analytics, AI in general, and some channel use as well. Before I get started with that, let me tell you folks just a little bit about Metrigy in case you're not familiar with us. We are a small IT research and advisory firm. We do our own original research in 2 primary areas, customer experience, which is why I'm here today, as well as workplace collaboration. We look at AI across both areas, security across both areas, management, and so on. We use this data in a few ways, primarily to guide enterprise IT CX and CX decision makers on their strategic decisions or technology choices, as well as technology providers themselves to give guidance in terms of what's happening in the market. One of the other key things that we do, and you'll hear a little bit about this during the presentation, is we do ask our study participants to share what business success metrics they're measuring with technology's implementation. They tell us the changes in those metrics, and then we do a success versus a non-success group and run correlations. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about customer interaction or conversation analytics. Metrigy really does see this as one of the most vital components of business intelligence today, and that is thanks to AI, right? As you can see in that pie chart there, half the companies that we've studied already are using interaction analytics. Another 30% in the green slice, they're planning to implement it this year. And then 13% have it on their roadmap for 2026, or they're evaluating the technology. And this is according to a study we did on AI for business success, which we conducted earlier this year, January, February of this year. So with this, what we really are seeing is the idea of interaction analytics really transitioning from being a contact center innovation just a few years ago to being something that is really a strategic asset today. The other thing that we're seeing, and I'll talk just slightly about this, but the contact center, that definitely remains the primary use case. But we're also starting to see interaction analytics reach into other departments that have those conversations as well. So sales, account management, and so on. You may have heard me already use the term interaction analytics, conversation analytics. You'll also hear conversational insights or conversational intelligence. All those words or all those terms are sort of used fairly interchangeably. The goal really is the same, and that is, kind of very simply to examine conversations, uncover insights. We hope with the goal of driving improvements in business metrics, of course. In the case of the contact center, when we're talking about those conversations, we're talking about the interactions between customers and then your service representatives or agents or your sales and salespeople or sales agents. And the kind of the primary goals in terms of what we're trying to achieve with these tools, achieving operational efficiencies. You want to be looking at issues proactively, identifying those, maybe streamlining some repetitive workflows that you uncover, and kind of getting to the root of hey, why is this conversation taking so long? What are the kind of the sticking points here? And then the other is to get a better handle on quality management. How are agents behaving? And for this, we can use auto scoring of conversations. We can identify areas for coaching, provide feedback to agents. Okay, so customer conversations. This is really, really at the heart of what we're talking about here, right? And these conversations, they can take place across any number of channels. We certainly hear a lot about the rise of digital channels, the importance of meeting customers where they want to be met, et cetera, et cetera. But what we find in our research, as you'll see over there on the left side, is that voice really does remain the top choice for consumers when they're interacting with companies providing them with products and services, particularly if there's an issue. So 66% of consumers, they have had a phone conversation with a company that they do business with within the last 2 years. And this data comes from a study that we did with 500, slightly more than 500 consumers in North America earlier this year. So 66% voice conversation within the last 2 years. It is the most used channel for customer service today. Just slightly ahead of email. Email comes in at 64% of interactions for the last 2 years, but far and away greater than the next two channels of communication for customer service. Those being text messaging and in-app chat. And 31% of consumers have had a conversation with customer service over text or in-app chat. So you can see that as a pretty big gap there, 66 to 31%. So I think that's kind of one takeaway there is, if you're thinking about where do I get started with interaction analytics, voice calls, that's a pretty good bet. I mean, that's where a lot of the conversations are going to be taking place, right? If you look at the left, that's just sort of the flip side. The right is the flip side of the left. So the pie chart shows the percent of companies that support the voice channel today. So 82% support voice today, as you would expect. And then most of those who aren't supporting voice yet, maybe they started digital and they're just realizing now that they need to get a voice channel as well. Most of the others are planning to do so, if not this year, then in the coming year, or they're evaluating. And then there's a slew of other digital channels that also support conversations, and you can apply interaction analytics to be that web chat or chat bots or voice bots and so on and so forth. Just to kind of drive home the point about the importance of voice and the importance of understanding what's happening on those phone calls. I'm sharing this data, again, from our recent study. 77% of all interactions use voice, either initially or they escalate to a phone call, having started in a non-voice digital channel. We delve into this on the right side in that chart you can see. So the blue trend line, if you look at that, that shows the percent of interactions that start in a non-voice digital channel, and then the green trend line shows the percent of interactions that are resolved in that non-voice digital channel. So if we just look at the two ends, 2020, 2024, 50% started in digital, non-voice digital in 2020, 31% resolved in the digital channel, meaning that 19% started in a digital channel, escalated to voice. And then in 2024, we saw the same 50% starting in digital, but only 23% resolved there, meaning 27% escalated to voice. Well, I can theorize all about why we see this, these trend lines doing what they're doing, but if you had an interaction tool, I'll tell you what, you could certainly drill down into all of this information. You could figure out why customers are abandoning a digital channel, as well as you being able to assess how well agents are performing, how well they're handling those calls, especially if those calls are coming from disgruntled customers, dissatisfied customers, and then coaching them to, get them over to the satisfaction side versus the dissatisfaction side. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, we are starting to see interaction analytics applied in scenarios beyond the contact center, but really the biggest scope is for the use with customer service. So as you can see in that top bar, 77% of research participants using interaction analytics are applying it to customer service conversations. And then the next largest area for interaction analytics is sales, maybe using that to analyze sales conversations with goal of sharpening messaging, or maybe assessing sales force effectiveness, and that's cited by 59%. 54% are using it for what we call a more emerging use case, and I'm pointing this out only because I think of the broader implications that it shows, but 54% say that they're using it for internal employee conversations. Maybe trying to uncover workflow bottlenecks or improve collaboration and so forth. I think it just kind of highlights the growing maturity of interaction analytics, and then the value of it as a tool. So something to think about. With the use of interaction analytics, conversation analytics, really seeing CX leaders kind of shift their thinking about customer interaction data simply as an operational artifact of the contact center. Rather, what we see as research participants thinking about it, really, that conversational data is really a gold mine of customer sentiment. Being able to discover sentiment, look for behavioral patterns, understand sales cues, and so forth. So 39% of our survey respondents actually considered this conversation data to be vital, the most important data available to the company. So that says an awful lot, 40% thinking that, and then nearly 40%, and then 52% say it's important. So it's one of the one of the top information assets that they have. So certainly a lot of value seen of the conversation data. On this slide, just showing you two things. The first is the percent of companies that have seen interaction analytics most improve a given metric, and then the percent improvement by all companies. So 44%, you can see in the left-hand bar, say that they had most seen their CSAT scores improve with the use of interaction analytics. 27% say they've most seen revenue grow from the use of interaction analytics. And then Down from there, but still worth noting, 16% say they've measured, they've most seen an agent and employee efficiency increase, and then 14% have seen cost reductions. It doesn't mean that only 14% have seen reduced costs, but that's the top measure that they've seen. And then the yellow percents there show the average percent improvement. So 33% have seen improved CSAT score. CSAT scores improved by 33%. 26% growth in revenue, 30% improvement in employee efficiency, and 21% drop in costs. Okay, the key to all of this, as I mentioned earlier, is AI, and really specifically the rise of generative AI versus previous keyword-based legacy tools. I think we've heard a lot over the last few years about LLMs and how they're really been the catalyst for propelling all sorts of new opportunities within the business. And certainly they are propelling interaction analytics to new levels in terms of performance and usability. With LLMs, you can really go into, explore vast volumes of unstructured data, including call and text transcripts, plus call recordings, and generate meaningful insights out of those. Otherwise, as Lisa had mentioned, it's really a time-consuming manual process to understand what's happening within customer conversations. One of the other values is that with generative AI and these new tools, these LLM-based tools, they can ask anything they want in natural language. They don't even necessarily need to know what they're looking for. They can just let the AI kind of point them into directions, finding risks or opportunities, for example. So Metrigy's data shows that more than 2/3 of companies, 67% are already using generative AI in one way or another. And then on the right-hand side, we can see that nearly half of them consider generative AI to be a real game changer for them, really accelerating their use of AI. And then slightly fewer, but certainly no less significant, they view it as important and slightly accelerating their use of AI. We see improvements with generative AI as well, 32% boost in CSAT scores, 30% employee efficiency improvement, 26% revenue growth, and 21% cost reduction. And I should be clear when I'm talking about generative AI here, it's not specific to the use with interaction analytics, but just generally, but I certainly think it shows the promise of using it with interaction analytics. And then just a quick look at agentic AI, certainly been on everybody's minds within the last 6 to 8 months or so, really about helping, taking generative AI a step further by taking those actions, performing them autonomously, helping humans in the moment or behind the scenes, just taking care of interactions and different processes. So 31% of companies in our latest AI study say they're already using agentic AI. Maybe not fully in production, maybe a sample use case here or there, but it is in use. And then most other companies do anticipate using it. So with that, I am going to hand over the mic to Shika and Eric, and they are going to share more about how interaction analytics, the promise of agentic AI and LLMs really does turn this from more of a reactive reporting tool into something that is very proactive and self-optimizing. So Shika?
Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. That was a great insight from the survey conducted by the Metrigy team. And thank you, Beth, for walking us through it. Some really great numbers from the survey that we saw. At Unifor, we believe agentic AI isn't just the future, but it's the next leap in transforming customer and agent experiences. Just imagine being able to ask your data anything and not just get answers, but delegate those tasks from those insights that you get from to an intelligent agent that resonates more like a contact center SME, so to say. That's the future we are enabling, and today we'll explore what's fueling the shift. With that, here's a look of what we'll cover. We'll start with why your conversation data is such a powerful asset and why legacy solutions fall short. Then we'll explore how LLMs and agentic systems are unlocking action from these data. We'll go on to seeing all of that in action in a live demo, and we'll wrap up with the key capabilities which is required in agentic conversation insight solutions, and end up with a real success story by a customer. Awesome. So, as we know, every conversation, whether it be through digital media, through voice or chat, contains rich signals about customer needs and sentiment, agent performance, operational efficiency. Despite having all of these data and so much data than ever before, most organizations still struggle to extract insights really fast and make it scalable and meaningful for their businesses. And that's largely because of the limitations of these legacy conversational insight solutions. The first one to point out would be the QA teams. They're still reviewing only a small fraction of interactions because it's really manual, very time consuming, as we spoke about earlier. It means most of the insights remain buried and they're really not used at all. The second one is the rigid setup for getting those keywords and conversations predefined, configurations, tags, which takes a lot of time, which means you only get answers for the questions you've anticipated and you know what to surface for. If you, let's say, if you want to know what are the first 5 reasons of customers calling, you'd have to manually define each possible different combinations and permutations of reasons in advance. That approach really limits our discovery and misses out the emerging signals. And the third one I would like to point out is the business users can't really self-serve. So they rely on more on running queries from the analysts or data teams. And this entire process of going through them creates delays and slows on business decision making. So while the data is there, the ability to unlock its full value has been really, really difficult. But that's starting to change right now, as Lisa and Beth pointed out, and all thanks to generative AI world, LLMs today, they understand business context and nuances as humans would. And now you can just ask in same simple plain language. So for the previous example where we needed to define the keywords, we needed to have those permutation combinations of what we were looking for in that particular conversation. With LLMs, any team's business users can simply ask, what are the top 5 reasons customers were calling, and get that answer right away. These models understand unstructured conversations, picking up those nuances, that intent, the emotion, the sentiment across millions of conversations. They just don't help answer those queries, but also uncover these patterns, trends, and gaps the business doesn't even know to look for in these conversations. And now we go on to the next approach or the next level, where the next generation of AI powered analytics in the CX world, which goes far beyond from just answering natural language questions. We're entering in a new era where AI can think, it can reason out, it can evaluate, it can act like your best contact center SME. What's truly exciting is the shift from those insights that you get from the system and getting that into action. So imagine a system that doesn't just tell you what's happening, but proactively generating those recommendations and step by step actions to be taking those tasks and completing that task and actually executing those actions through agentic workflows. Let's try relating that to the ease of one of the use cases. You can describe the kind of analysis or chart you want, and the system instantly builds it for you. For example, if we happen to ask what are the top reasons that the agents are performing, after finding the top reasons, the AI agents recommend the area that agents can improve and update the agentic workflows. Whereas before, it would just be finding out that particular area where the scores that the agents are just lagging and behind. But here, there are certain different steps that the AI agents are taking in. It's a huge leap from humans having to do these exploratory manual analysis to arriving at an insight versus an AI agent and analyzing the data and recommending steps in reasoning aligning to the KPIs that the businesses are looking for. It could be reducing handle time, it could be boosting CSAT, or improving first call resolution. With that, I'll hand over to Eric for us to give a sneak peek on what the future looks like and what the future of agentic capabilities in the conversation insights world could be.
Cool. Thank you, Shika, and thanks Beth for again the insights about what we're seeing in across the industry today and across customer surveys, as well as kind of where the industry is going. I'll start today with a quick demo of kind of how a agentic system can make sense of the data. You can use it as effectively a partner, an AI partner who can do the analysis, help you spot new trends, and then provide recommendations of what can be done differently to improve outcomes. So let me switch here and share my screen so we can go through a quick demo of the system. So what you see here is kind of a dashboard of a analytics view of contact center application. You can see all sorts of different journeys that customers are going through, how they're engaged on the system, et cetera. But where AI really provides a huge potential for this space is giving you an AI assistant, someone who can be there and do a lot of the rote tasks and make sense of very large amounts of data, both structured and unstructured, and let you make sense of it and also try to work towards achieving key performance indicators and driving towards outcomes. So let's go ahead and let's ask a question. So what are the top emerging trends? Top emerging trends today. So you interact with the AI agent in a natural language form, asking questions as if you would to an analyst that you might be working with. So here the AI assistant goes and says, okay, we've noticed a number of new trends. In this case, we're working off some data that refers back to the LA wildfires when that was taking place a couple months ago. So here we can see, it found that there is a big uptick in LA wildfires. Obviously, a lot of conversations about insurance and fire claims, et cetera. And so we can go through and use some of the tools to, again, get views of what topics are emerging, what's the sentiment around different topics, and kind of where there might be potential areas that you want to improve customer experience or improve agent performance. So here we've seen, a dashboard with a number of topics. So let's now ask, how are the agents doing on these topics? So we can see that agent performance scores are lower with the emerging topic of LA wildfires. Potentially they haven't been trained enough on this area, or maybe some of the guidance needs to be adjusted to help address some of it. And so the AI assistant can also provide different helpful tools as a customer experience supervisor. I might want to go and look and drill into some conversations to see how are things trending, how are my agents performing, maybe listen to some calls here and there. Or maybe I want to go and look at dashboards of agent performance to see how agents are handling different topics and where there might be room for improvements. So what we can do then here now is let's actually ask the AI agent, how can the agents improve? So here, the assistant, has gone through and analyzed a swath of data and noticed that there's a couple areas that potentially agents can improve and how they go about handling some of these topics. And so, if we first look at analytics, let's take a look at how the top performing and the bottom performing agents are handling the topics. And we can see we filtered it based on wildfire, which is the current topic of the last day. And we can see that there's definitely gaps between how the top performing agents are handling these kind of types of calls compared to the bottom performing. And so then this is really where the promise of agentic AI comes in. So not only are we asking the AI assistant to do analysis, we can also ask them to take actions on our behalf. So in this case, I'm going to go and say, let's ask the agent, the AI assistant here, to upgrade the script on our UAssist product, which is essentially our assistant for agents. It provides guidance, provides summarization, et cetera. So in this case, we're going to go and have it, produce a draft of an updated call flow or an updated script that the agent might follow. So we can see kind of what the current script looks like, and we can see where the AI assistant has come up with a potential change to the script that might drive better results. So we'll go ahead and we'll say, let's approve that. Let's put it into production, and let's see how this works. And so now what we can do is we've pushed this change into production, and so now we'll see how agents perform better. So we can ask the assistant here now to keep me posted. Let me know any improvements on the agent scores. And so then the assistant will say, yep, we'll circle back the next time we log in. But I want to give it a couple of days to see how the changes to the script takes effect, and see if we see a better improvement over a couple of day period. So let's say let's revisit this. Oops. Next Tuesday. Let's go to week. And so again, now the assistant noted that we want to review it in a week. We got a handy little reminder here to say, okay, we have a reminder to follow up on this next Tuesday. And so then if I were to go back and log into the system a week from now, we can go back and see that the performance of this agent has how it's progressed. And so if we go and retrieve the chat, oops, let me go close this window and go back. We can bring back our latest chat and see that we've logged in a week later. We've seen a drop in the wildfire topic, but also we've seen how agent performance scores have improved over time, potentially given the updates to the guidance script that we provided to agents, and also just more familiarity with the topics. So this is a little bit of how we view agentic AI and how it makes it possible to really have a partner in your AI journey to make sense of vast amounts of data, mine the important information that's taking place in all the conversations, both digital and voice, and then work with you to improve and drive changes to the system to hit different outcomes that you're aiming for. So let's, if we think about this, when you're evaluating solutions for conversation insights, it's really critical to look beyond just the surface level features. The best solutions are really geared towards helping you and your business achieve outcomes, both with actions and also doing this at scale. And so if we think about some of the concepts that really are important here, first is how do we focus on the output? So being able to ask questions in plain language. You don't need to necessarily rely on an analyst who goes in to do SQL and dive into data analysis. You can talk to the AI assistant using large language models and natural language to ask simple questions and get clear responses and clear answers. So it's not just the raw data, but it's also data with explanation and reasoning behind it, and then potentially even visualizations helping you to make sense of the data graphically. Second, it's also important to have insights that can lead to actionable outcomes. So it should be able to embed insights into the data and the responses that comes back, but also feed them into the workflows, whether that's something you're using to provide agent coaching, or if it's potentially enhancing or changing self-service and automation, or triggering customer follow-ups to drive the right outcome. Because ultimately, insights aren't really effective if they don't drive action. You want to have that massive impact. Third is, how do you customize this at scale? And so different teams care about different things. And so it's important for a tool to be able to cater to different personas and different needs that teams have. So a QA organization, quality assurance team, managers, they might need to score the agents and see where their agents need to improve and where they have really good leaders in their team. Customer experience teams might look for what patterns are emerging with customer sentiment or topics that they may need to build into their operational practices. And then the operational teams might look for gaps in processes that can make changes and improve to lead to better outcomes. So the system needs to be able to allow each of these teams to build and share their views, and without needing to go through an analyst and every time, because that takes time, resource, and cost. Lastly, it's important to look for continuous improvement. So working with an AI solution isn't just a one-time, one-and-done setup. It's something that you're continuously trying to iterate. It can become a virtuous cycle of, the AI agent is learning, it's getting smarter, it can provide higher quality analysis, and then it can also work to improve models over time as well. So you're basically helping both the agents as well as the AI to get better over time. And then, a big factor is cost, right? So AI can help drive significant advantages in terms of scale when you think about the cost. To do this with a human analyst is quite cost prohibitive in many cases. AI can do this at scale across all conversations, different languages, at a cost that's very hard to compete. So talk a little bit about one of our customers who's also going through an AI transformational journey. So this is a very large, well-known insurance company here in North America. They are processing and going through over 50,000 interaction and touch points with their customers on a daily basis, both through voice as well as through digital channels. And it was a really tall ask. They were facing legacy systems and legacy tools fragmented across a number of different vendors. And they were really looking for someone who can help them make sense of the data, drive new insights, improve their customer performance, reduce churn, and help retain a lot of customers. And so we had a short timeline to do that. So with a month, our teams deployed our UDiscover application, partnering with farmers and their teams to deploy scoring, dashboards, scorecards for agent performance, dashboards that roll up to the executive level so they can see insights across their conversations, and helping to drive consistency and improvement over their customer service operations. So really exciting to see how this organization is transforming. And it's, I think, one step of many that they have planned, but we're really proud to be part of their partner in this journey. So I'll end my section on kind of one last thought, which is, the future of conversation insights isn't just AI powered, it's AI partnered. And so the statement here reflects the shift in how we approach conversational analytics. It's not simply enough to use AI to process interactions. The transformation occurs when you partner with AI, treating it as a collaborative assistant or an agent that helps us ask better questions as analysts and executives, make faster decisions, and surface insights that are both actionable and scalable and human-centric. So again, if we think back about the traditional approach that we're trying to step out of, teams mine through thousands of calls and chats and transcripts on a daily basis, trying to identify patterns, or using different tools, whether it's keyword spotting or some pattern matching here and there. But it's time-consuming, it's siloed, and it's often reactive. And so now, if we can imagine an agentic AI approach that we sort of looked at earlier in the demo, one where AI can be your co-pilot in your analysis. So you can ask questions of your data about anything. You can get nuanced, context-rich answers across millions of conversations in a very quick time frame. So it's not just automation, it's also augmenting your performance in the contact center. And this shift is really unlocking tremendous value for customer experience leaders. So you can use that to identify churn signals, you can uncover intent behind complaints, highlight sentiment shifts, and proactively go and detect where your customer experience is falling short. So before it shows up in your NPS or your CSAT scores. And this isn't hypothetical. This is really where organizations are trying to go, partnering with AI in a way to reduce costs, get faster time to insights, and increase customer satisfaction and customer loyalty. So a couple of key takeaways is conversational analytics is evolving from dashboards and very passive approaches to intelligent collaborative agents. And then partnering with AI really allows customer experience leaders to move from this reactive analysis to being proactive about their insights and drive continuous experience optimization. So, a key question is, are you listening to your customers, or are you learning from every word that they say or that they type? And are you doing that at scale and real time? Because now is the time to start thinking about and plan to move beyond traditional tools and really bring in AI as your strategic partner to drive customer impact. So thank you for that. So I think now we have time for some questions, I believe.
I have a few questions for you guys. And boy, but first I want to say I really, really love that idea of not just being AI powered, but AI partnered. I think that's a great way to think about this. So you guys have mentioned being able to ask your data anything, right? And I think that was in the title of this webinar even. So what does that look like in a real contact center setting?
Yeah, sure. I think I tried to do a little bit of a demo of that earlier, but the key part of it is being able to use natural language, right? You want to be able to ask questions like, what are the top reasons customers are calling today or last week? Are agents greeting the customer properly? Are they following compliance requirements in their interactions? Are they using profanity, right? So a number of different types of questions that someone in the contact center might want to learn about in the conversations, either from an agent point of view or from a customer point of view. And so really can the system, the platform, and the AI understand the customer need, the sentiment, and emerging trends, and do this in a way that doesn't require someone from the IT team or the analyst team to go and write SQL and build a whole bunch of static dashboards. We're really trying to make it so real life personas such as QA managers, customer experience supervisors, et cetera, are able to do this naturally, using natural language, using tools that are intuitive for them.
Okay. So, Shika, I have a question for you. And it's around the idea of this AI hype cycle, right? We've seen this time and again, with AI, with other technologies. But what do you think makes agentic AI different from what's come before? I mean, I shared adoption figures from our survey base. Already 31% say they're using agentic AI. Are you thinking that we're kind of out of a traditional hype cycle here?
Absolutely. I think we've definitely seen AI hype cycles, right, Beth, with everything from generative AI to LLMs being used and still being used. But I think what makes agentic AI very different, it's not just, as we saw in the demo and as you mentioned before as well, it's not just generating those responses or getting those insights, right? It's actually thinking through those steps that comes from those insights and help complete a task. So the agentic AI bit is helping complete that task as well, as we saw in the demo. It's reasoning, it's adapting, it's taking that action. That's a huge shift there. So for example, we also saw this, but I just want to put the different steps that we saw in the demo, right? Identifying, like, let's say low performing calls, or recommending coaching and updating our QA workflows, for example. A traditional AI would just flag what the low scores would be. But an agentic AI, it'll firstly analyze patterns of the call, second, figure out why performance is slipping, thirdly, recommend specific coaching actions, and even tweak those workflows, as we saw, driving the analytics bit. And that bit is different.
So it's kind of closing the circle as you were.
Exactly.
But all of this depends on trust, right? I mean, if you're going to let AI start to take those actions and go beyond the pure analysis of it, you've got to be able to trust those decisions. So how are you guys seeing your customers do this? How are you doing this with your customers? What are your thoughts around trust around AI, agentic AI in particular? Eric?
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to take that. Yeah, it's really interesting. We were talking with an analyst last week, and trust is the bar for AI. Trust is very high, and it makes sense, right? Brands put a lot of faith in their interactions with their customers, and so one misstatement by an AI bot can blow up on social media, can have brand impact, can have impact to customer loyalty, et cetera. And so trust in AI is extremely important, and to do that really requires transparency, and you need to have effectively a good set of guardrails and a good sense of responsible AI policies that are part of your product and part of your service delivery. And so things like explainable AI, being able to show the reasoning, why did the AI think this and this and this when it's understanding or processing a conversation. You also want to make sure you have feedback loops so that different subject matter experts or agents or users of the tool have a way to provide feedback to the system that can be reviewed or factor its way into more tuning, so you can kind of refine the system so it continues to improve and perform better and stays within the guardrails. And so a lot of our customers and a lot of enterprises are also starting with that human in the loop as that first step. It sort of lets them build the trust. They have the human who is in the middle there trying to make sure and reviewing things that are coming back from feedback, or where there's maybe prediction accuracy that seems a little bit low. Human in the loop can be there to sort of be the grown-up to make sure it looks good, and then improve over time. And that helps build both confidence in the users as well as autonomy with the agent.
I mean, Metrigy's data definitely shows that these trust issues are still very much an issue, but diminishing each year of our surveys, as companies get more comfortable in using AI. So, what about differences between employees in terms of the traditional way that they've gone about their work? What are some of the key differences that we can expect once an organization starts to adopt AI and how they can get the most out of it? Shika?
Yeah, I can take that up. I think one of the biggest shifts that employees will notice when the organization adopts AI, especially like agentic AI, is the shift in the nature of their work. Let's take QA analysts or supervisors in a contact center, right? Today, a huge part of their day is spent manually reviewing calls or scoring interactions or figuring out or identifying what the coaching needs would be for their agents. But with agentic AI, as there's more reasoning with those evidences that come in and action that's been taken, that manual heavy lifting gets automated to a great extent. So what is happening is that role evolution that's happening. Instead of reviewing 10 calls a day or 20 calls a day, they are strategizing across thousands of calls. Instead of figuring out the patterns, they are acting on those patterns, what they're finding through those insights, driving more coaching, optimizing those workflows. And by the end, this helps make all the decisions the outcomes help with making these decisions more faster. It's the same for CX leaders as well. It unlocks a lot of visibility into what the customer's voices are, and that too in a large scale, very instantly.
We recently did a survey on workforce engagement management, and one of the findings was if supervisors are gaining time because of these automated tools, right? And what are they doing with that extra time? Well, 71% say that they're putting it back into further improving operational efficiency and quality. And then the next is they're developing their own personal skills, so then they can kind of up level within the organization. So really, really good opportunity for the workforce. Yeah. So I think that takes us through our discussion. probably can take some audience questions now.
Of course. I also want to recommend that survey. I got to see some of the research. It was pretty great. All right, I'm going to start with the first question. How do all these solutions handle situations where different teams need different insights from the same data?
I can take that up. I think in most of the organization, all these different teams have the same data, but they are each one of them have different need to extract very different insights from these. So for example, a CX leader might zero in on things like sentiment trends, product specific pain points. For QA team, they have more focus on like compliance gaps or call quality. It's the same underlying data but viewed through different lenses, and I think that's the key, and that is what makes it even more powerful, is the ability for teams to customize without needing to go through the data analysts or the admins, or business analysts. Actually, they can build and ask their own prompts, and they can get those insights just instantly. So instead of having one size fits all, it's really flexible, very customizable, collaborative, where everyone sees what matters most to them in their business unit and when they need it.
All right. Our second question, how do you balance flexibility for business users with the guardrails enterprises need around data security and accuracy of information?
Yeah, that's kind of related to the earlier question about trust, right? So I think enterprises have very high bars for security, privacy, accuracy. Again, because it all goes back to brand trust, right? So I think with any agentic system and with any conversation and customer experience solution, obviously it's important to have roles-based access control, so that only the right users in the organization have access to the data. It's also important to have guardrails, so that that the system is not potentially producing or hallucinating information that might be misinterpreted or create risks around private data. And then with everything, logs and audit trails about who accessed the data, or what did the agent produce in terms of its answer, how did it come up with that solution, so the reasoning behind it. So again, part of that trust loop. And then I think obviously being able to measure continuously the accuracy, provide the feedback loops, so the thumbs up or thumbs down, or flagging where responses or results were a little bit inaccurate. That's very important. And then being able to ground an AI and an LLM solution in enterprise truth, whether it's through guardrails or retrieval augmented generation. Every enterprise will have their own different policies, their own different documents. It's important that the AI is trained and able to retrieve information from that with what it is doing, whether it's analysis or answering questions for end customers. So this is really important, where models need to be grounded or trained on data for that enterprise.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of training, the next question I have is, how much training does a business user need to start using these tools confidently?
I think it's a lot about the initial setting up the facts, setting up the rules, the different conversation facts to it. There's no keyword setup that's required. So since you can ask questions in plain language, you're good to go. But there's also that part of get the loop that we were talking about, and getting that insights that's coming in and using those towards agentic workflows, right? That all of this is happening is very automated. So the setup time is very low, and it's definitely built up for non-technical roles as well. So team supervisors, QA managers, CX leads, all of them will be able to use these products.
Okay. We do actually have some linked setup questions. The first one is, when you're setting up, can you request more than one language?
Yes, for sure. So the system can work on multiple languages, and we're happy to provide information if there's interest. But a lot of the key languages across North America, Europe, and parts of the Middle East, and parts of Asia are available with the application we were showing earlier. So yeah, multiple languages is a possibility for sure.
And the next question, is there a limit on the number of keywords?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So yeah, actually, what's really important to take away from this too, which maybe wasn't quite as clear in the demo, we didn't really get into the analytic agent in depth, but it doesn't work on keywords. It actually works based on the LLM's interpretation of the conversation. So it is processing a transcript as part of its context. And then as a quality manager or as an analyst, you define in natural language kind of what you're looking for in the conversation using natural language. And we call those conversation facts. But what that really is you're saying, okay, did the agent use profanity? The model knows what can be considered profane, and it will then as it analyzes the transcript, it will look for potential profanity, for example, or proper greetings. And so you're not actually going in there and hard coding any keywords or phrases. The models are intelligent enough to know based on the conversation and the full context of the discussion between the customer and the agent. They're able to understand what's being spoken there and derive insights, facts, and kind of measure according without having to do lots of keywords. So there is no limit on keywords. There aren't any keywords in the solution.
There's no limit because there are no keywords. All right. That is all the time we have for questions today. I want to thank you again, Beth, Eric, and Shika. No Jitter really appreciates your time and your expertise on today's topic. Slide. And thank you to our sponsor, Unifor, as well as everyone in the audience. We appreciate your attention and your participation in the webinar. Within the next 24 hours, you will receive a personalized follow-up email with details and a link to today's presentation on demand. Please feel free to invite your colleagues and peers who may have not been available to listen to today's event. This webinar is copyright 2025 by Informa TechTarget. The presentation materials are owned by or copyrighted by No Jitter and Unifor, and the individual speakers are solely responsible for their content and their opinions. On behalf of our guests, Unifor, and the No Jitter team, I'm Lisa Schmeiser. Thanks for your time and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all.